In this video, I will show how to use portals with zones in the C4 level editor um, so that we can actually connect different zones and see multiple zones at the same time. And ultimately this will support doing a manual sort of volume partitioning, and ultimately we can help speed up our game by efficiently controlling how much geometry can be seen at any given time. Again, I'll be using the same level as from the previous videos. In the last video, we set up a couple zones, divided the level into two halves with fairly similar platforms on the left and right side. So if we play the level now, if you're on the right side, you can't see the left, and if you're on the left, you cannot see the right. So we're going to actually add portals so that we will be able to see. I'm intentionally going to do things a bit odd, so for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to, instead of making my portal as big as the shared face between the left zone and the right zone, I'm going to make it a bit smaller. I'm gonna visually mark that by making a couple columns here. This also will help demonstrate setting the target zone. So if you're working with lots of zones and you start placing things in the world, by default they'll all be under the scene graph. They'll all be placed under the infinite zone. What you'll actually want is, if you're building stuff within the left zone, you'll want it to be placed within the left zone. Since that's what I'm going to be doing, so I'm going to select the left zone, go to the node on the menu and set target zone. So now anytime I make anything anywhere in the level editor, it will place it under the scene graph on the left zone. So I'm just going to, let me change the texture on this. Just going to place a couple cylinders to make columns. Move these around and scale. Okay, I'm going to use Control C and Control V to copy. Move this down. So this is going to kind of mark where my portals will be. The way you create portals, there's a special page called Portals. Make sure that's selected. Scroll down on the ribbon. You make a few different types of portals, direct portal, remote, and an occlusion portal. We're just going to stick with the direct portal for now. This will allow us to mark areas where there's visibility from one zone to another, and if that visibility is there, if you can see the portal, then you draw what's on the other side. Okay, the easiest way I've found to draw portals is to draw them from the side view. So I'm going to draw just about where my columns are. Just roughly place those. I'm going to need to move the portal over. Typically, your portal, you want it to be right on the face of one of your zones. I can never remember which way these arrows should face. I believe this direction is actually backwards. So let me, I need to make two portals. They're unidirectional. So if you ever want to make a portal between two zones, typically you're going to need to make one that goes from the right to the left and from the left to the right. So let me copy this portal, Control C, Control V. I'm going to move one copy over to the right zone, and then in the left zone, I'm going to rotate this one. And I'll hold down the Shift modifier just to make it cleanly rotate. Move this up. so that it matches up perfectly with the other portal. So I have two direct portals, one for the right zone, one for the left. I might have them in the wrong direction. We'll find out in a second. But I'm going to now select one of the portals. So I have selected the direct portal on the right side. The next step is I need to tell it which zone is visible through that portal. And similar to the way we communicate relationships for a lot of the other functionality in the level editor, we'll be using the Connect Nodes tool. It already has a zone connector specified, so that I can select that, then select the opposite zone, which is the left zone. So they're both highlighted. Under Node, again, we'll do Connect Node. I need to do the same thing for the opposite zone. Click on its connector, click on the right zone, and link those up. So now let's see if I got this right or not. Save and play the world. Okay, good. I got it correct. So you can see that we are on the right side looking over, and we can see all of the other level. Now our portal, you can imagine, is framed by those cylinders. So it's in view, so we don't just see through the portal itself. The way it works is if we can see the portal, if it's within our view frustum, then we draw everything in the connecting zone. So let me see if I can, yes, right here. As I turn my head to the right, as soon as that portal is not visible, everything disappears. So this is why I intentionally made the portal too small, just so I could show how things actually work. This is something to be aware of when you're making your own levels. You need to make sure that you construct your world appropriately. Either make your zones big enough or use an occluder. Like if I put walls up and made something like a tunnel to go through, the current shape of my portal would be appropriate. But right now, since this is such an open area, my portal really should extend from corner to corner on these the shared face between the left zone and the right zone. And I can show you similarly if we go over, wait for the bridge here, go to the other side, and here we are. And again, you'll notice it's dark over here. The reason is because there's no lights over on the left side. If we could easily add some light sources, maybe an infinite light source, and we actually have different lighting for different zones. Of course, we can go back again if we wanted to on the bridge. And we have the same problem on this side. If the portal is not in view, which is framed by those two columns, it's not in my view frustum, it says, okay, well, don't even render anything on the other side because we just assume that you can't see it. As soon as I turn my head back again, you can see it. So this demonstrates how you can use portals. You can imagine stringing lots of them together, and that's where the power of using the zones and portals really shows how useful it is. You can imagine it if we had a dungeon with lots of different rooms connected by doorways. We could have a zone for each room, and portals at the doorways, and you only ever render whatever zones you can see. So if we're in one particular room and we look through the door, we might see the next zone. However, there might be lots of hallways and tunnels that double back on one another and basically create occlusions where you cannot see other zones. So you'll only ever be rendering some subset of the entire game world. This is great because you reduce the number of triangles that you're drawing. So this concludes this video. In the next one, I'll show you how to do a slightly more advanced step using a transition zone. This is especially useful when you have geometry that needs to be shared between two different zones, so renderable from either zone.